Rangers fans want to get rid of James Tavernier, who captained them to their most important league title in their history and to a European final, but still blame everything on him. But apparently he's the problem. It makes zero sense. And the responses that you've had to that, Scott, have been varied.
Yes, it's been quite mixed, honestly, Martin, so it has. But the thing with Tavernier is, right, I've always been a big defender of Tav over the last, 4 years or so. And the thing that just really frustrated me, Martin, was the abuse that he's received since the Old Firm game, right? And obviously we've seen what happened after the game outside Ibrox, where Tav was getting singled out from that Rangers fan. I thought it was totally disgusting, what the guy was saying to him. But obviously, when you're going back to that Old Firm game, right? See Tavernier, he didn't have a good game. Nobody had a good game, right? But it just seems to be a common theme now, where if things are not going well at Rangers, Tav gets the brunt of it all. He's a scapegoat. But people do seem to forget how important James Tavernier has been for Rangers over the last few years or so, and how much he's evolved into the role as captain. And even last year as well, Martin, right? Tavernier scored, I think it was 24 goals with 12 assists, right? And also scored the winner in the League Cup final. Right, Rangers weren't great last year, right? But if it wasn't for Tavernier, Rangers would be so much worse off. So much worse off. And of course, he's not had an ideal start to the season, right? That's evident, right? But, and that's another thing people seem to forget. See, in the summer, during pre-season, Tav didn't have much of a pre-season, right? And it's clear as day he's no fit. It's clear as day, right? And he's playing catch-up, right? And there's how can you decline for as a footballer within three or 4 months, right? Because Tav had a great season last year. So yeah, I just don't like the stick that he's getting. I don't like the abuse he's getting. Of course, he's not immune from criticism, but some of the stuff that he's been putting up with, I think it's just been absolutely disgusting.
Why do you think that is then? Do you think it's purely because he's the captain, he's the kind of front man for the players, for the front man kind of, I suppose, apart from the manager, from the football club? Or do you think it's the fact that in many Old Firm games, Scott, he has cost us goals? His performances, in my opinion, haven't been great, although I do take your point in terms of his goals and his assists. But I would probably be on the side of a lot of people who tune into this and who tune into other podcasts and social media and stuff. I would be of that opinion that I do think that we could do a lot better at right back.
No, so I do get the point in what people do say, in terms of obviously the last few Old Firm games, Tav hasn't exactly covered himself in great glory defensively. But I feel as though the way the modern game is nowadays, right, it's more important for fullbacks to get forward rather than what they are capable of defending. So that's the thing as well, though. People do seem to forget, if it wasn't for James Tavernier, Rangers would be so much worse off. And another thing as well I do want to touch on is the fact that obviously he's been linked with a move to Besiktas. Mm-hmm. From what I've heard, it's going to be very unlikely that will happen, because obviously the transfer window's shut, obviously in the UK, and obviously the Turkish one's shutting, I think, on Friday. So let's see if James Tavernier was to go now, right? Hypothetically speaking, it would be disastrous, because who else would Rangers play at right back? Sterling. I think Sterling's a better midfielder than he is a right back, and obviously that outlet out down in that right hand side, not having Tavernier there, especially with his attacking capabilities, will be a huge, huge loss. So from what I've heard, going back to my point though, Besiktas, I think it's very unlikely that will happen, purely because obviously we can't bring a replacement in, and also Clermont really rates Tavernier. So I think that obviously the report originally came from Turkey, but I don't think there's much in it, to be honest. And as I said, if he was to go, which I don't think will happen, it would be disastrous, because it'll be classic Rangers, typical Rangers, if they were to get rid of Tavernier and we don't have a replacement lined up. And obviously, I've seen talk about potential free agents coming in. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would be a good enough replacement for someone like James Tavernier.
On the free agents point, I was sent a list today of free agents. Now, I'm an old man, Scott, right? So I don't really keep up to date with European football, and when we're linked with players, I kind of need to jump on social media, and then I'll read transfer market and then pretend I know what I'm talking about, as all good people in media do. But the list of free agents doesn't excite me.
No, it doesn't at all. It's just the current situation Rangers are in, Martin, where it's like obviously Rangers haven't got a lot of money, and that's the only option that Rangers have got right now. Still, obviously the window's shut, but when you've seen it obviously in the summer there as well, Rangers are bringing in loan players, and yeah, that's the thing though as well. Like I can, like when I see when certain people do say, "Oh, Tav's ran his course at Rangers," right? I can maybe see a wee bit of truth in maybe this could be his last season. I could definitely see this one being his last one, but what other people are saying right now, like about Tavernier saying like, "Oh, get rid of him now." Like, why? The transfer window's shut. Like, what? There's nothing Rangers can actually do. So I think it's just for me. I think it's just a pretty silly thing to say. And obviously, as you said, the list of free agents out there just now, it doesn't excite any Rangers fan, especially that I've spoken to as well. So, like, another thing as well, just going back to what I was saying, like about obviously Tav not having a great start of the season, he's not fully fit. Rangers fans just need to be a bit patient with him just now. And obviously, there's a lot of negativity around the club. That's evident, right? And it's understandable. But I feel like how things are so bad right now and how things are so toxic. See, giving abuse to Tavernier, giving abuse to Rangers players, giving abuse to Clement, that's not doing anyone any favours. That's only going to benefit Celtic, and that's it. So I feel like even though things are bad right now, I'm not sounding like a happy clapper saying this or anything, but I feel like Rangers fans just really need to get behind the team right now, because the more things continue to be negative, the more things are going to get worse and worse. And this is a very important season for Rangers, because Celtic could surpass Rangers' trophy record, and that would be disastrous. So I feel like the Rangers fans just need to get behind the football club right now, and there's no point just being negative all the time.
Has the manager and the players though, Scott, given us supporters reasons? I know that you shouldn't have to look for reasons to get behind the team, right? And I fully understand what you're saying, right? But has the manager and the players given the fans any reason to be optimistic ahead of the future and get behind the team? Because we haven't had the greatest start to the season. We've been put out of Europe, and Celtic effectively taught us a lesson in football. So the fans are sitting back and looking at the current situation, looking at the players that we currently have in terms of the new players that we've brought in. And if you want to talk about Tav, if you want to talk about Proper, Hefty, Yilmaz, whoever, are looking at the current situation that we're in and going, we don't see a way out. How are fans supposed to be positive looking at all that?
Yeah, I know, like, obviously right now, as I said, it's not a good situation. And obviously the players that have came in, it's still early days and stuff, right? But the summer window didn't exactly excite me or a lot of Rangers fans. But yeah, I do get your point. Obviously, it's very hard to be positive, but the way, and I do understand why a lot of Rangers fans are just fed up, because like I think that's obviously 5 Old Firm games, and Rangers have failed to beat Celtic in one of them. And obviously the football's not great. There's no real identity with the team right now. And it's, as you said, it's not been a great start. But I just feel like after what happened in the Old Firm game, obviously it all came to a head and stuff. But if Rangers get a good result this weekend, I feel as though it's, as I said, I think Rangers fans just really need to get behind the team, because it is a massive season for Rangers, the biggest one since 55, because it would be horrific from a Rangers point of view if Celtic were to go on and surpass Rangers' trophy record. But this is another point I want to say about Clement as well. He's been hung out to dry. He has. It's clear as day. He's been hung out to dry by the board. And in my opinion, the reason...
In what way Scott hung out to dry in terms of finances?
Oh, yeah, because he wasn't fully backed in the summer. And obviously, he's trying to do things with one hand tied behind his back, So that he's been dealt a bad hand, but it's same thing with Tavernier as well. Clement isn't immune from criticism, and obviously his record recently is not good. 9 wins in 22 games, but like that's the thing as well. Though I do feel sorry for Clement, and the board, in my opinion, are the reason Rangers are in this mess right now.
Sorry, I was just finishing my coffee. But surely that then, if Clement's been dealt a hard hand, right? Which I agree. I think he possibly has. We spent what, 4.5 million on Diomande.
Mm.
And apart from that, it's been relatively low fees, even proper, some free transfers. But that's then effectively saying that the players at the football club right now, the vast majority of them aren't good enough.
Mm.
So surely that would lend into the way that the supporters are feeling. And I agree with you. I completely agree with you, mate. He was dealt a short hand. So the players at the football club right now aren't good enough.
Yeah. No, and obviously that goes back to from obviously when Michael Beale was here. So I feel like I don't even think this is me. I don't even think I'm over exaggerating saying this, right? But I think one of the worst decisions in Rangers history was appointing Michael Beale. And that's another thing I think Rangers fans are forgetting, that Clement is still trying to clean up Michael Beale's mess. And obviously Clement inherited a complete shambles from Michael Beale. And obviously Rangers done well for the first few months of the season. Obviously won the League Cup, last 16 of the Europa League, top in the group. But things have not been going well since that Motherwell game. And of course, Clement needs to take his share the criticism for that. But obviously, the current situation Rangers are in right now, this goes back to my point as well about get behind the team, get behind the manager. Is Clement's not going anywhere unless something drastic happens, right? Because he signed a long-term deal. Well, obviously that it was quite it was up for debate if that was the right or wrong thing to do, but it's happened now, and he's here for the long haul. And I do believe Rangers they can't keep going through the cycle of sacking managers. Rangers just cannot do it. So Rangers just I feel like need to get behind Clement. I think he is the right man. Rangers fans need to give him patience. Obviously, because it's not going to be a quick fix. That's clear as day. And obviously, as we know on social media, it's a cesspool at times.
Yep.
And but yeah, Clement, I think he showed enough from last season that he is the right man. But it's going to be quite a struggle this season, and I think Rangers fans do need to realise that. And but yeah, Clement, he needs to get things right, because if Rangers, hypothetically speaking, I don't think this will happen, right? But just say Rangers are 15, 18 points behind Celtic, right, come Christmas time. I think Clement's position would be pretty precarious at that point. But I don't think that will obviously happen. But I think it was a bold move from the board to give him that long-term deal, because obviously he still had, I think, 2 or 3 years left on his
I
contract.
think no matter, Scott, what way you look at that, it was the wrong decision from the board. Backing your manager, I absolutely get it. I get why you would want to back your manager. But when things haven't been going well and you can't guarantee that you're going to be successful, and you know, or you should know anyway, and I'm well aware that Rangers follow a lot on social media, they should have their finger on the pulse. There's people at the club whose job it is to do that. You don't then go and give a manager another year's extension when there's no need for it, because his contract's long enough. Now all you've done is say to the supporters, and I don't know, Scott, if maybe this was the Rangers board's idea, but now they can come out and go, manager's contract's too long, we can't get rid of him, you're just going to need to stick with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, though. At the time, I was like, yeah, I think at the time, I was like, okay, I was like, it's a good decision, because it's like finally Rangers are actually getting behind a manager. It's going to be a long-term project. But just considering how the way things have went, looking back on it, I don't think it was a wise move, because if things do go in a bad way, obviously the Rangers board it's going to cost a lot of money for the Rangers board to sack him. So they've shot themselves in the foot in that aspect. So yeah, it's like, it just seems like this Rangers board just can't get anything right. And obviously they've been doing a lot wrong over the last 18 months or so. And yeah, they've got a lot to blame for the situation that Rangers are in, because how can you go from winning 55, making a European final, winning a Scottish Cup, to the mess that Rangers are currently in right now? If you're a Rangers fan, it's really sad to watch, to be honest.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Especially if you're a Rangers fan who needs to come on YouTube every day and talk about it. Just before I let you go, in the journal world, in the media world, have you heard anything about a CEO coming into Rangers? Are Rangers getting any closer to it, or is it all quiet on the CEO front?
I haven't heard anything, mate. I've not heard a thing just just yet. It's just been pretty quiet in that aspect. The only thing I've actually heard in terms of like big news like regarding Rangers is the fact that over the last few days it's going to be very unlikely that James Tavernier will be leaving the club, and I definitely think that is the right decision. But in terms of a new CEO coming in, I've not heard anything